Somebody's getting a new roof today. I hear the bum 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 bum. Hear it? You guys hear it? Sounds like a bunch of staples. Look who's in the window. Look who's in this window. That's the cat. It's the cat with the mane, not the mange. Huh? Aren't you pretty? Aren't you pretty? That's the pretty kitty. It is cold out here, not because the temperature, I think it's 50. I think it's 50, 58. Air temperature is good, but there's a 20-mile-per-hour breeze out here. And it is cold. I'm hoping it stops long enough for me to soak up some sun. But I may have to go inside if it doesn't warm up. Come on, wind, stop, stop. Why does it feel so cold? Because the wind's blowing, that's why. Is it gonna let up? No! So we're gonna have to go inside today. It's too miserable. Let's go. If the wind would die down, it would actually be nice. But it's difficult being old and being cold. See you inside. Okay, we're set up in... We're set up inside, yay! Now let me put my spit filter. I don't think this is a spit filter, it's called a pop filter. Is that just because they don't want to call it a spit filter? I don't think it really matters, because you still hear my lisps, pss, 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 right? And then it never wants to kind of sit the way it's supposed to. There, how's that? That's pretty close. Of course, the microphone's actually down at the bottom. So right here's equal to my face. What? Nice to be inside. It was so cold out there. Guess I could turn this upside down, right? So the microphone's standing up. I'd rather have the microphone standing down. Just my personal preference, okay? I mean, you call it a potato, I call it a potato. You call it a tomato, I call it a tomato. That sort of thing, right? But we don't want to call white black or black white, because that's just too much of a gray area. So it was cold out there. Let's see what the temperature is, shall we? We don't have a cat in here today. Excuse me. About the time I think I need to see the doctor about my throat. My throat will start feeling better. And then like this morning I wake up and my throat's sore. Eventually, the truth shall be known and we'll know what's going on. But you can't put too much faith in medical doctors, because medical doctors are humans, kind of like the church with the Pope and the bishops and all that. They're all humans, so they're all prone to failing. They're imperfect and they can fail, even though it's the Pope, right? Yeah, I got a book of the popes in my bookcase, and there's been times there's been just downright evil popes. Okay, now somebody's at the door, and it definitely sounds like a whining goo-goo. Let me go like goo-goo in. I don't know why I didn't put a t-shirt on the back of these chairs to begin with, because it definitely saves the scratches. And I wish I had put a cover on the one out there when I'd first gotten it. This one, just the t-shirt, seems to work fine. I don't really have any scrapes on the arms on this one. This was like a brand new chair. 3-4 years ago I bought this chair. When I moved into the house I bought it, so I was going to throw out the one in there. But then you start thinking, well, the one in there, why would I want to put a brand new chair out there for the cats to tear up, right? How do you like the color for today? It's kind of like a yellow. I'll show you the color. Goodwill sent me some. This is the color. It's not actually in the yellow zone, is it? It's kind of more in the orange. So yellow would be over toward the green. It's just the way the colors show up on this. Actually, it looks more green now than on the yellow side. It's just cool, man. Cool. Like a blue moose. You know, if I didn't have any kids, I don't know who I'd be talking to right now. I'd be talking to like the dum-dums. I'd say, hello, dum-dums, from your fellow dum-dum. How's everybody doing? It was nice outside as long as the wind wasn't blowing. Goo-goo, are you in here? Goo-goo? When he gets up on the bed, I'll move the thing over. Let me make sure we're recording. And let's go to the XR1 web. And there is the moon. And the Earthrise. Now, isn't it interesting to think that there's people, there's a form of life living underneath the surface of the Earth? That it's going to turn out that the Earth is hollow, and that volcanoes are caused by the generators under the Earth. That the Earth was designed almost like a spaceship that we live on, and that what we think are UFOs and aliens actually have lived here all along with us. They've just chosen not to make themselves known. I thought that they were angels, but to my surprise, I jumped aboard their starship and headed for the skies. And they said, come sail away with me. That's the song by Styx. I was going to see what the temperature is. Will you go with me to see what the temperature is? Of course, I got to move my head and look to the side. Let's see. Klystron 9. Weather. So it says it's 60. I could look at my clock, but it's projecting on the ceiling with all these lights on. I can't see it. So the low tonight's going to be 46. It's definitely going to be colder than it was this morning, because it was warmer this morning at 12:30 when I got up. Then at 6 o'clock this morning, the temperature just it went down like 2 or 3 degrees, and now it's coming back up. So the high today is 65. Let's see. What's going on the U-boob? The boob-ube? Anybody know? All right, there's our favorite president. Unveiling the ultimate no-compromise creator motherboard. That's what I'm talking about. I need to make a computer just for content creators. But I'd need like an RTX 4090, which are about $1,000. And that's all you would use it for, because the one that I'm using now has a whole bunch of other slots on it. I think this one doesn't have a wireless. This one has a lot of open slots on it. But it's only a 6-core. Let's see. It's not really much going on here. Jim Howard must have had a heart attack or something because he hasn't been online for a while. Which is probably why I've been watching him. And Teresa used to say she thought I was the angel of death because everybody I visited passed away. Starting with Edmund. And then I used to visit with Pop Pop and Uncle Joey now. But I didn't have any visits with Aunt Teresa, so that's not my doing. So, what is the temperature as we speak? I think it's 60. Is that what I'm trying to say? Winter Haven 58. Sorry. Let's see what it is up in the Sun Coast, the Palm Coast. Sorry, the Palm Coast in beautiful St. Augustine. It's 54 degrees, 24 mile per hour wind out of the north. Let's see what the wind is here. This is Winter Haven. 15 miles an hour. I was outside, it was blowing, and it was one of those blowing winds that just chills you to the bone, to the bone. I told you there was this black guy that taught us indirect fire in Special Forces school. And I've seen pictures of him in Vietnam because he was a Vietnam veteran. And Purple Heart recipient. He'd been wounded several times, spent quite a few tours in Vietnam, and he used to say, when he got us to say, "Cool, man, cool," and he'd always say, "To the bone, to the bone." Or he'd say, "Cool as a blue moose. Cool as a blue moose, to the bone, to the bone." And he's the one who told us the story about to make sure you check your overhead. I've mentioned this before. He said, check your overhead clearance before you start shooting mortars and artillery and stuff like that. And you know, I'm watching it when I'm watching these videos of the Ukraine guys shooting mortars and 155 howitzers. And a lot of times they're under like trees and things. And that once the mortar shell leaves the tube at the end, the barrel, you know, it's a live round. If it hits something, you know, if it was to hit a bird or something in the sky, there's a pretty good chance it's going to explode. So he was saying that these guys set the mortar up in Vietnam up under some trees, and he was telling the guy, you got to move it away from the trees. There's not enough clearance. And the guy said, no, you know, go tell somebody else what to do and leave us alone. And he said he went and sat in the back and they started shooting the mortar. You know, when you shoot mortars, you have to zero them in. That means you have to have a fixed spot on the map. Nowadays, it's not so because they have GPS. But we used to have a fixed spot on the map that we could align the mortars on. And it didn't have to be in the direction you're going to shoot. It could be back in the opposite direction. So you would shoot at a known point on the earth. It would be a landmark. So a lot of times it'd be like a church or cemetery, something like that. Because they're on all maps. A lot of historic sites. If you didn't have any mountains or intersecting streams. So once you zeroed the mortar or the artillery in, then you could adjust you would have stakes set up. That's how you align. When you see them looking through a sight, you wonder, what are they looking at through there? They're looking at sighting poles. Because that's how you adjust your fire. How many degrees from the pole that you zeroed at. So the guy was started to zero his mortars. And I guess the wind blew one of the trees over the tube. And when the mortar round went out of the tube, it exploded. And he said part of the shrapnel came back and hit the guy in the face. And he said the guy was dancing around going, oh, oh, because you know it's hot. When a mortar explodes or artillery, that steel that shoots out of there is burning red hot. When it goes into your flesh, You know, a lot of times people see it sticking out, they'll go to grab it if right after it hits you, and it'll burn them because it's red hot. And the guy was screaming, oh, because it's hot and it's a piece of steel that went into his head somewhere. So he didn't say, I told you so. But that was the last time the guy sat there and set up mortars. But I remember that. So that at any time I set up mortars, and I have some pictures when I was in the desert. I was doing mortar training for my team. And the 80 millimeter. The Germans had 88s, I think. And we have 80s, which are the most portable ones that we could carry. And I believe they were good for out to like 4 kilometers, which would be about 3 miles. 1.5 kilometers is a metric mile. So 3 kilometers is 2 miles. So what, 2.5 miles? Let me go make sure my toilet seat's down because Goo's in there. Did I just say Goo's in there? Goo's not in there. He's on the bed. There he is. Have you guys been watching Goo all this time? You guys been watching Goo and not telling me that Goo's been here? Guess I could get closer, right? So that I can get my... I don't have to zoom out on Goo. Goo was in here all the time and you're not telling me. I don't remember seeing him get up on the bed. This shows you how attentive I am. Goo. So that's all that's going on here. I got a box from Goodwill. They sent me 2 camcorders. One of them was broken. And I think the other one works, but we'll see. And if the one that's broken doesn't work, I just look forward to taking it apart. You know, and putting the screws in like a little pill container. So I have these tiny, tiny little screws. Because if you look at these cameras, all the little tiny mechanical springs and things in there, it's like, how do humans make them? You know, the ones that say made in Japan, I'll buy over one made in China. Because in Japan is where they're designed and manufactured to begin with. And they only moved the manufacturing over to China because it's cheaper. I turned the light on Goo, can you tell? Goo's got the light on him. Of course, he's blinking his eyes because it's bright. Sorry, Goo. Sorry, Goo. Good boy. What a good boy you are. You want to go back out and get on the heating pad? That's my cat, you know. Goo's my cat. What are you looking at? I'm looking at you in that camera up here. I'm looking at the camera, the little screen next to the camera, or else I'd be looking over here all the time at the computer. Oh no, listen. You guys hear that? That's the little crybaby. What would I do if I didn't have any kids? I'd be known as the cat man. I'd have 42 cats. I would have been richer, right? No, not really. You can't be any richer than having children because they're the best thing. They're worth more money if you sell them to the Middle Eastern people. No. You don't sell your kids to people. I mean that they're worth more than any amount of money, your children. If I didn't have children, I wouldn't be making these videos, right? It's cutting my head off. Here we go. Now we can get Goo in my head in there, my big fat head. If I didn't have any children, I'd have to marry somebody that had children from another marriage, right? Or maybe adopt children. You know, Uncle Joey was a foster parent. I don't know how many that he had, but most of the people that he brought in were teenagers with disabilities. So only Joey knew what all that was about. he left there that one day, and the guy in the wheelchair caught his house on fire and started to burn it down. I've got pictures of it somewhere. I think they're on his computer. It's the one in the living room. But there was that one, and then there was another one that ended up getting arrested for burglary or something. And before he passed on, the guy was sending him letters. Because there was 1 or 2 letters in his files when I finally got into his apartment, and it was from this ex-foster child he had who is now a young adult and was in San Quentin prison. And he was supposed to send a letter of referral or a letter of supporting him if he were to be released, or helping him or something like that. What do you want? And I don't think Uncle Joey did, because the guy sent another letter back that was kind of mean and nasty, saying, "How come you didn't send a letter to the parole board?" And I thought, whoa, it's a good thing. You know, so many other things could have happened. It's like one of those, that kid, before he went to San Quentin, could have ended up killing Uncle Joey and robbing him for whatever he had. And he may not have lived as long. He might have died when he was in his 60s. And so many things that could have happened that didn't, because God intervened. But I like to think that doing those good things, fostering children, he had in his stuff is a certificate as a certified for the state of California, city of Los Angeles, as a foster parent. So you have to go through a lot of background checks and things for that. And I guess Uncle Joey never really got into trouble. Even though he used to drink all the time, I don't think he had any DUIs or any problems like that. But you never do know the good things people do. Only God knows a lot of times. So, and I talked about Aunt Teresa before, about the good things she did working at the Marian Center as a teenager with Aunt Liz. And that was the Sisters of St. Joseph at Catalinga, down near the Miami Dolphins training field. Was right behind there, I think. St. Thomas Aquinas. And Don Shula used to go to Mass every morning before he'd go to practice. You know, it is a good thing to be able to go to church every day. Gives you a good foundation to start every day out. And I went to church so many times all those years at the department. In the morning after briefing, I'd have my radio turned down low and be in the very back of the church. But it was just such a wonderful way to start the day, you know, especially in such a negative job. Kind of like going into work dealing with sick and dying patients all the time, right? Everybody you encounter has got some sort of medical issue. It has some sort of negative impact on their life, or else they wouldn't be there to begin with. Which I guess is almost the same as in the police business, right? If you're dealing with sick people all the time, they're always in some sort of crisis. Goo-goo, you can't hardly see him with the light and the white towel, can you? He would disappear really good. Oh, now he's going to lick his behind. Hey, stop licking your behind. You're on camera here. Okay, he heard me. I don't think he'll lick his behind. He gets embarrassed easily, Goo does. He's like, what? You mean I'm on camera? You didn't tell me? Goo might say, I need to sign a disclaimer. Just in case somebody wants to pay to see him. Still think we should have a cat channel. Nothing but cat videos. Or dog videos, huh? Start taking videos of your dogs and posting them online. You can make a YouTube channel, you know, it's a dog's day or something like that, and just post short clips of your dogs. You know, I've got a lot of cat clips that I could probably start doing that maybe as time goes on. If God gives me more time, maybe I'll start doing that. Try to get Stephanie to do it. What do you think? think I've talked enough for one day. You've heard me clear my throat so many times, it's irritating, right? Not irritating to my throat, but irritating to you. So it's, I woke up last night, probably around 9:40, 9:30. I wasn't feeling well. I don't know. I thought maybe I went to the post office yesterday, but I think Stephanie's been working concerts or something, doing something at concerts. And maybe she brought something, some sort of disease home, or flu or something. Cold or the flu, or a new strain of COVID. And but I woke up and I was feeling just strange. My head was hurting, but in a different place. And at least it wasn't pancreas or gallbladder, right? But I actually laid down this morning for about an hour and a half. I had an extra cup of tea. Gosh, that tea can make a world of difference. You know, it's got antioxidants in it, and it absorbs impurities out of your system as it passes through your kidneys. Tea does. It's probably going to be one of those superfoods, super liquids. So make sure you've got some tea and you drink it. So all those years I was drinking tea probably kept me from getting kidney stones. So instead I get gallstones. But at least they're tiny ones. And maybe eventually that's what they'll decide's wrong, and I'll get the gallbladder taken out and I'll be back to my normal self, right? It's like, can we hope? Can we hope? I need a haircut. Actually, I can let it grow and I could get like the wave thing going, like David Cassidy from the 1980s, from the Partridge Family. You know, they get that kind of like wave right here. What do they call it? It's layered, the layered look. And I can straighten my beard and tie this into braids. Huh? I can split it right here. And I can be like some goofy Fu Manchu. I love you guys. What would I be doing if I wasn't talking to you? If I didn't have somebody to talk to, I would be here all alone with probably 47 cats in 32 cat boxes. And I'd be known as the Cat Man. And hopefully I wouldn't be a hoarder, and then there would be like piles of cat poo everywhere. I seen that one on the Hoarders on channel 10.2 when it's working, where they were cleaning up this lady's house and they found this like petrified dead cat. It's like when they got to the bottom of the junk in their house, they found this dead cat that was all flattened and mummified. Do you guys remember that? Don't want to become that. But I think hoarding stuff is in your genes, and it goes back to some things we just can't control, maybe. I don't know. Goo, you doing all right, buddy? We'll have a different color tomorrow. Of course, Goo kind of washes out the camera because of his white. Look at that. You can't even see him when his eyes are closed. He blends into that white towel. And the other cats look at him like he's handicapped. Like we would look at a handicapped person. Like people do, right? Because people are not perfect. Well, the other cats look at him the same way. That he's just terribly disadvantaged because of his color. He could never survive in the wild. You've heard me say that before. Unless he's in the snow country hunting snow rabbits. He would blend in perfectly if he was in the snow. But the other cats think he's disadvantaged. And that's putting it mildly. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other and your furry friends. What else are you going to have other than your furry friends if you don't have children, right? Well, think about having kids at some point in time before you're 50 years old. By then, you don't want to be 70 and going to your kid's high school graduation. I can remember this husband and wife growing up at St. James. I was probably 10 years old, and this couple would always sit adjacent to us or a few aisles before or after us. And it was this older couple that must have been in their 50s, and they had this little boy. And I always thought, boy, they sure do look old for having that little boy. You know, it might have been their grandson that they were raising, for all I knew. But I always noted, even back then, that they looked awfully old to be having young children. Of course, my mom and dad, I think, were 40, in their 40s when they had Uncle Bob. All right, I love you guys again. May God allow us to be reasonably happy in this life, and supremely happy forever in the next. And on behalf of Gugu and Neo, he's down here on the floor, we tell you that we love you, we miss you, and we'll see you again tomorrow if the good Lord gives us the opportunity. And if the wind stops blowing, we'll be outside tomorrow. Bye, you guys. Maybe I'll hook up one of the disabled cameras. Hey, guess what? I fixed the demo mode. It didn't go into demo mode. I turned demo mode off on this camera, and I set the power saver off too, so that I wouldn't have, you know, it automatically shutting down. I love you guys. Say hi to your animals.